to work. This is exactly what I'm doing my foot.
Heavy. People aren't.
And they have little wheels on. Doesn't.
Good question. Yeah, there are plenty of conventions. MobileCon is bigger. In fact, it's some of the biggest contract, but it's
That. And it's full of thousands of them.
yes. MobileCon.
Can y'all hear me? Does everything sound good so far? There's no video yet. I'm gonna throw everything up here in just a second, but hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, Anthony, the screen's gonna be black for just a second while we're getting set up and getting rocking and rolling here.
I'm in camera alerts. Very serious. Anyway, but if we have on the library, all quiet room, we can with some audio in the back. We go further in. Honestly, if you like, for example, you also have something called the security service. No, service, but similar idea, but we are enabling them and
Maybe you don't want that are just.
exactly. So instead of like going to get your lunch in the long zigzag lines to get it, you would go up to a staff member and say, hey, I have what you need, can't stand this long line, I need someone to take it, I need a runner to work on those two. Where you go straight to the front, take your ID and the cash, or both. Yeah, it's like flash pass for that.
Well, I mean, they have that except they're but just for everybody, not just.
Oh yeah. Brennan, whenever you're ready, come on up and just
So in this case,
sing to me. You should be able to pick you up on the mic. Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
right. Yes, that's my email.
congratulations on Monday. There's this past Sunday, right?
Yeah. Last Monday, yeah. Passed the CISP last Monday.
But yeah, I was so excited when I woke up and saw that you got.
I also got
Oh yeah, ask you about that.
I am your new director of membership for the Metro Atlanta ISSA chapter.
Is that what you were telling us about before?
I was in the running for it, and I've been awarded the position, so I'm officially the director of membership for the Atlanta chapter.
How much is it per attempt in ISSA?
Per attempt for CISP is $750.
Still going pretty.
And then if you pay an extra 200, I think you get a second chance at it. But honestly, if you do enough practice questions and that kind of stuff, and if you're getting in the mid to upper 80s on your practice exams, you'll be fine on the exam. And the biggest thing is to practice how to read the questions and figure out what they're actually asking. The big thing. Really with any exam is try and figure out perspective from the organization that's testing you. What are they trying to determine that you need to know?
Right.
And then from there, you can figure out the answers, or at least whittle it down to two and have a 50-50 shot.
You know if they regularly update their question base? Because when I was taking Pen Test Plus, they were asking me about OWASP vulnerabilities from the 2015 list. Like, why haven't they updated those since then?
Yeah, so the question was, does the ISC Squared update their test bank? Because sometimes CompTIA exams have older questions, and specifically like OWASP 2015 and not talking about 2019. So yes, ISC Squared is very good about updating their exams.
Yeah.
So the thing that I ran into was like I found questions on the exam that were not in the common body of knowledge. So like you had to go beyond their official book and find what else you needed to know. One of the ones that made me laugh, and just because it's a silly term, was data diddling. Was in the CISP exam. I had not heard of it. Like, it's new to me, but it's kind of one of those, like I kind of figured out what it was by the context of the question, but it was something that, it wasn't in the common body of knowledge. It wasn't in any of my test banks. I never saw it until the day of the exam. And, it's kind of one of those, just took a swing at it. It could have been a test, like, where they're testing because they're getting ready to switch over in April to the new exam, the 2024 exam. So it could be that it was one of those few that they're using as testing, like they're trying to test the market on them and see if they're going to be good questions for the exam. So hard to say. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the second ISSA at Kennesaw State University meeting for 2024. Happy to have you all here, and we're going to talk about breaking into cybersecurity. Just like the Kool-Aid man, we're going to bust through the wall here and figure out how to get in, how to land that job, and navigate the muddy waters. It's not a straightforward path. There's nothing in this industry that is, there's not a set way to do anything. We all have different ways that we've gotten where we are. Looking at some of y'all in the room, I know your paths. We've talked before, and not one of us has the exact same way that we got here or are going to get to where we're going to go. So that is what we're going to talk about. So who is this guy? Who is this guy talking to you tonight? So my name is Taylor McDonald. You may know me as Taylor. You may know me as the Cyber Hamburglar on YouTube, Discord. You see me on LinkedIn. But I am just like every one of you, except I've got 4 dogs. I've got a beautiful wife. You can see her in the second picture there. So I've got Diesel is the big one at the top left. Lumi is the white one, and then the tricolor sitting in my wife's lap is Yoshi. And then we've got Zoe, our little 12-pound Frenchie, in the bottom there. And so I've got 100 pounds all the way down to 12. And they all play well together. They are absolute terrors around the house every day, with my wife and I both working from home. I'm a cybersecurity risk analyst with GE. And other than that, I was in the car business for 16 years. Up there is my race car, and it doesn't really look too much like a race car, but that thing all but it was old, it was crusty, but it moved. But I'm very much a technical mind. I love getting my hands dirty, whether it's with computers, whether it's cars. I maintain my family's fleet of vehicles, whatever they need. Even though my brother-in-law works for BMW, I wind up working on the cars at the house a lot of the time. He does take care of the stuff like tires and alignments because I don't have the money for one of those machines at home. So, but I am also an owl. Kennesaw State. I actually was here from 2006 to 2008 and dropped out, but I wound up moving to become a night owl at Western Governors. I graduated back last year. Wound up enrolling in August and then graduated in November. So had a very accelerated course path and did my degree in cybersecurity and information assurance. So I know a little bit. I kind of know what y'all are going through as students and kind of navigating the job market and finding how to apply what you're learning and make it translate into skills that you can bring to the table when you're interviewing. So what is cybersecurity? This is, when you look at cybersecurity, it is not one thing. It is a lot of different things. You have everything from security architecture up at the top, career development, things like security awareness training, your ongoing training, even companies that are there providing training to those of us in the industry. You have vulnerability management. You've got governance, risk, compliance, risk assessment. There's so many different domains. So when you're navigating through this and you are learning and you kind of find what makes you tick, you find that thing that really interests you, that's the thing you probably should latch onto, the thing that you should really focus on. You should know enough about the entire industry, but also kind of find your focus, find the thing that makes you tick and lean into it, because that's what's going to set you apart from all the other candidates out there. I mean, you need to have your domain that you are the subject matter expert in, but you still need to know enough to be dangerous about the rest of the domains. And there's, again, within these, when you get into like security operations, right below that, you've got vulnerability management, you've got incident response. And a lot of big organizations, they're two different teams. You've got active defense. I mean, you can dig in and find your niche within these organizations. And if you're in a smaller organization, you're probably going to be wearing all of the hats under security operations. So having your strong suit, but also being well-rounded is going to benefit you in the long run. So how do you break or pivot in? Networking. And I put up there both kinds. You need to be coming to events like this. Talk to your peers. Get to know everybody and anybody you can. It's having those conversations, being real, being a human to somebody else, and getting to stick in their mind. So when something comes up, a job opens up, they have a friend that's looking for somebody, you're the first person that comes to mind. So being able to network, be able to communicate, be able to make those connections with people outside of the classroom and outside of from behind the computer. Get out, talk to people, get to interact, and go to conferences. Especially as students, you get passes to a lot of the local conferences for free. You have meetings like ISSA. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to pay the $110 a year for the Metro Atlanta ISSA membership to actually attend the meetings and benefit from them and get the networking, get the education that we provide all the time. And I am saying this as the director of membership for ISSA Metro Atlanta. So shameless plug, ISSA has been a big influence on me over the past 8 months, but they follow a lot of the values, the inclusivity, the openness of the organization is really what drove me to them and has also held me there. So I feel very strongly that they have the right mindset in helping the new generation of cybersecurity professionals come in and be successful. The other part of networking, you don't have to take your Network Plus, but at least understand the concepts. CCNA, Network Plus, you've got to know how networking works, from local networking to SD-WAN to the overall internet, how everything functions. It is going to be key in cybersecurity. Doesn't matter what domain you're going into, network security is the foundation of cybersecurity. That is going to be your starting point. Continual education. If you're in this industry for the money, that's not where that should not be your biggest motivator. If you are a lifelong learner, this is the right industry for you. Absolutely. Every day is going to be something new and something to learn. Can't say it enough. Learn every day. Make sure you pick up on Linux, pick up on all the tools that come in your Kali packages that come, you go and download an entire repository of tools, play with them, learn how to use them, and be able to put on your resume what you use those tools for. What projects have you done with them? When you go to your resume and you put it on there, Kali Linux, okay, great, you've installed it once. But that doesn't say anything to an employer. What have you done with Kali Linux? How have you leveraged those tools? Nmap, Wireshark, whatever tools you're using on there, Metasploit, what have you done with them? Make it into a project for yourself and put that on your resume. Those are the things that are going to get you noticed and get you a job because you actually applied those skills into something that you can translate for an employer. We could use something that's done that before, or it's tangential to what they need in that particular role, or they see that you're driven and you're self-taught at that point. You're going above and beyond your education here at Kennesaw State. So kind of all ties in. Cloud, home lab. You can spin up a year of AWS instances and just be sure to put in the rules that if it's going to charge you anything, it just shuts everything down. Make sure you put the alerts on because you can rack up quite a bill if you forget to turn something off. But you can build a home lab on, give me just a second. You can build a home lab on your laptop. It doesn't have to be super crazy powerful to be able to spin up a second machine and use your primary machine to talk to your virtual machines. You don't need a ton of equipment. Now, that being said, for local DEF CON groups, people are always giving away equipment. They've got plenty of extra laptops, stuff like that. There's ways to get extra equipment if you need it. But the cloud is a beautiful thing for that too. You can spin up instances, have your own localized network, be able to practice on and be able to break it up. You can burn it. As soon as you have infected that machine, you can rip it out and start again. So absolutely a beautiful thing. You had a question?
So outside of classes,
Mhm.
we're learning about Linux, tools within Linux. We feel we aren't learning enough about the entire Linux platform. Not necessarily be a master at it, but be knowledgeable with it. How would we, what method should we go about guiding someone to learn more?
So, honestly, YouTube. Everybody says it now, but YouTube, you can find everything on YouTube nowadays. If you're really wanting to dive in deep on Linux and really find out how it works from kernel all the way up to the screen sitting in front of you, there are resources out there. I can absolutely share it with the group, with everybody watching in YouTube. Happy to throw stuff in the comments just for all the resources I can provide. But there are enough people out there that have done all the work for you or before you, and you can follow their footsteps and learn from what they've done. And honestly, that's where those of us that are in the industry, we've all started somewhere. We've learned from somebody else to get where we are now. So that is probably the best thing is if you don't feel your classes are doing enough, I would, if there's a particular tool that they touch on, but probably want to learn more, I'd start looking out content creators on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Udemy and Pluralsight are great. I don't know if Kennesaw State offers access to either of those as part of the tuition. I know Western Governors has a enterprise deal with them, so I had full access to everything on Udemy for 6 months while I was at Western Governors. So I abused the crap out of it. I watched everything I could and absorbed everything I could. But talking to other people as well, networking. You can say, hey, this is what I'm working on in class. What do you know about it? Start picking people's brains, and they'll give you other projects to work on and things to new tricks and stuff like that to help you expand your knowledge. How do you get experience without a job? I've touched on it. Whatever you're working on, you put Metasploit on your resume, right? You know what Metasploit is. What have you done with it? What have you done to work with it? Anything that you've done in class, projects, things like that, put them on your resume. Especially as a college student, you don't have a lot of prior work history. I mean, yeah, you may have worked at Publix or you worked at Chick-fil-A, but that's great. You've got customer service skills. That needs to be on there because that means that you can work with other people. But how do you demonstrate to an employer what you actually can do? So you need to put those projects that you worked on. If for a class you had to do a risk assessment, even if it was theoretical, developed a risk assessment, performed a risk assessment for XYZ fictional company. All the steps that you did through it, be detailed about it. Put that information on there so they know what you did, how you went through that process. And all these slides, I'm happy to share them in the Discord as well. When it comes time to apply, perseverance is key. The reason I say that, this market is incredibly rough. I mean, we have, it's like 500,000 jobs out there right now, like current open positions. Well, no, the need for workers is way higher. It's like 6 million open slots. But if you look at like right now, you go on LinkedIn and you search cybersecurity, there's about 600,000 jobs that are out there that are cybersecurity or tangential to cybersecurity. How do you get those roles? How do you get people to notice you? I can say I've applied to 5 jobs a day since the beginning of the year. How many calls back have I gotten? Anybody want to take a guess?
None.
Absolutely 0. How many interviews have I had this year? How many jobs have I interviewed for? Actually, I had 3. 2 of those, networking. People I knew recommended me in. So it comes back to the old saying of it is who you know, not necessarily what you know. What you know is going to help you land that job. Who you know is going to get you the interview. So back to the top there, networking. And yeah, these job descriptions are ridiculous. You get in there and we want 10 years of experience, CISP, and we want your firstborn child. Yes.
I was gonna say, that's how I got. Those of you who want to get into cyber, go home, find yourself a 30-second elevator speech, tell yourself, for the products.
Yeah, so what David said for everybody on YouTube, essentially work on your elevator pitch, your 30-second speech of who you are and what you bring to the table for that organization, or why they should listen to you and talk to you. That's the key when you go to a conference and you meet the CEO of a company or you meet somebody on the hiring team for that company. You need to be able to express who you are, what you do, and why you're good at it in that 30 seconds. And then that opens the door. They don't want to hear your entire life story. That 30 seconds should be impactful and mean something to them when you throw it in front of them. Did I get that right, David? Perfect. But again, I mean, back to really back to the job market, it's not easy, even if it's not cybersecurity. But the thing that I would say is, especially coming out of college, do not focus only on cybersecurity. Network security, network administrator, endpoint administration, endpoint security.
help desk.
Yeah, you've got to get your foot in the door somewhere. Do not think that you have to get a job in cybersecurity right out of the gate, because I guarantee you, you get that job in network administration, you get that job doing endpoint security, it's all tangential to cybersecurity. It's going to lead you on that path. It's going to be up to you to ask the questions, be curious, and talk to the people around you at that organization and be able to, kind of claw your way into their group and show that you have what it takes to be in cybersecurity at that organization, or expand upon your knowledge to be able to bring something to when you're looking for that next role. Here's, I was a network administrator, but here are all the security things that I did that would help me solve your problems at this organization that you're hiring for. So so don't focus is really what I'm trying to say. Do not focus on buzzword of cybersecurity. If you look at ISSA, it's information security. Information security. It is a much bigger picture, which would actually be the next slide. But the other thing, market yourself. Like David said, get your elevator pitch. Be able to talk to people. Be able to show the value that you could bring forward. I got a shout out to Jeff here. Find talent agencies. Find people that you can get in your corner to fight for you to find a role. Get somebody, if you show what you can do and you can befriend people and just keep that communication line open, they will help you find a role. For example, earlier this year, one of my interviews was somebody that I met a year ago at a conference. We talked for 3-4 hours at that interview over the course of not the interview, 3 or 4 hours over the course of that conference. We went to a lot of the same booths and same talks and stuff like that, but we kept in touch. And a lot of it was, we were sharing recipes. We were just talking about stuff that wasn't cybersecurity, but we kept that open. When they had an opening at their company, hey, I'd like you to apply. I think you'd be a great fit here. What it takes.
That's great. 75% of it just being social. The other percentage is exactly what you just as Taylor said. Know your network. Know how to subnet. Know how to IP or know IP range. Know how to spot a class A from a class B. Know how to spot a RFC 1918 versus something that is addressable.
Yep, definitely. You got to know your networking.
Know the basics.
Know the basics. That is absolutely it. Yeah, no, David hit it right on the head. You've got to know the fundamentals to be successful in this, and that's why I say, do not focus on getting that job in cybersecurity. Get a job in networking. Get a job in cloud. Wherever you can go, you're going to be doing something security related, no matter where you're at. And it might not be you're part of that cybersecurity team, but you're going to have an influence on security at that organization. And we're all in the same game together. So what roles should you be looking for? Cybersecurity encompasses a lot. It is internet security, web security, and network security. It is so much more than just, making sure Carl in accounting doesn't click on something stupid. You've got to make sure your local network is secure, that your web-facing servers are secure. There's so much opportunity and so many different areas that you can go into. And this kind of ties back to the other side with all of the different domains of cybersecurity. The big thing, continual learning. I have tons of resources. Whatever I can help you with, got a few favorites on here. Simply Cyber is every morning, daily cyber threat briefing, 8 o'clock, live stream, current news, and how to make that news, what you can take away from it to be actionable. What it means to you as a practitioner in the industry. Listening to stuff like that, listening to all of these podcasts, all the other information you can absorb will help you in your studies, but it'll also help you be a successful practitioner in cybersecurity. For entertainment, Darknet Diaries, fantastic podcast. It's like listening to a movie. It is probably one of the most entertaining podcasts out there. It is probably the #1 entertainment cybersecurity podcast. Belinda? Yes, these guys. Anti-siphon training.
So he offers, he actually to offer and that it gives them. But if you go out to search for job, that'll send you the Discord and
Yeah, so what Belinda said was anti-siphon training. They've got a class called Job Hunt Like a Hacker. So definitely check that out. It's a absolutely good resource. Everything they put out is top notch, top quality. And the big thing is for students and anybody else that is trying to get in the industry and you don't have an unlimited budget, they have pay what you can training. $0. You can learn from top professionals in the industry, right?
The gentleman that does it, his name is Jason Blanchard.
Yep.
He's also
Jason
known
Blanchard.
on Twitch and YouTube as Banjo Crashly. He does it every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m.
Cool. Thank you, Frank. Also, Hack the Box and try Hack Me. You don't have to have money to use those. You can get into them, and then with Hack the Box, you start doing the ranges. You start amassing their cubes, and you can buy more expensive ones with cubes you got for free. So, absolutely something that you can grow with and work through and leverage. Shameless plug, Slay Security Plus. I teach on Monday nights, Security Plus. So you can come check me out on my YouTube channel, where all of y'all on YouTube currently are. We're going to be moving over to the primary Slay Security Plus channel starting Monday. But all my old episodes and everything are up on my channel. And Jesse teaches on Thursday, so tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, he will be streaming domain 3 of SY0701 Security Plus. Other two favorites here, Tables to Clouds and Hard Network Engineering. Again, I harp on networking. They are, a wealth of information. They get into cloud security, they get into network security, but it's a good update on what's going on in the industry and how things are evolving as we go to a hybrid approach in a lot of organizations. Y'all are here, ISSA, welcome. The USNUA, your Networking Users Association, again, we're going back to networking again. There's a theme here. You got to know networking to be successful in cybersecurity. Quarterly, the Georgia Networking Users Group meets, meeting tomorrow night at Taco Mac in Sandy Springs. It is free. There's a couple beers involved if you're old enough, and the food and everything else, and then of course education and networking with other people. So it is networking on both fronts. Fantastic organization, again, very welcoming, very inclusive. Come on out and check it out. And then, like I talked about, your conferences, B-Sides, Atlanta, Augusta. Yeah, Augusta's absolutely enormous. But if you're looking to get out of town with your significant other, you've got Asheville, you've got Knoxville, Birmingham, Nashville. They're all over the place. So whatever city you're in, I know we've got a very diverse group on YouTube right now, from all over the country. So there's a B side probably close to you. It is absolutely worth checking out, and the entry to it is pretty minimal. It's normally like 25, $30. Get a t-shirt, get lunch, and you get all the education you can handle that day.
One more thing. If you want to jump in the deep end, the same weekend that besides the guest, got Security Onion. Security Onion is a Linux-based IDS, intrusion detection. Uses tools like Zeek, and Kibana, bunch of stuff, a lot of people using the enterprise. It's free to download. Want to build your own lab? I'm working on mine. I just don't have the hard. And to another point, if you can finally use Raspberry Pi, they're super cheap if you find them. Find out the new ones, the new ones are expensive. Find an old one, they're probably going to be relatively portable. They've got the older ones have got hungry networking, the USBs, my ports, the whole 9 yards. You can do Raspberry OS, which is just like Linux, based on a Debian. Play around. I've got one in my lab. That runs Pi-hole and Unbound for DNS. And if it breaks, crash it, start over. Not that big a deal.
Wipe the SD card and go. So what David was saying was same weekend as besides Augusta, you've got the Security Onion Conference. But if I understand correctly, you can actually put security in it. But you need actually decent hardware for Security Onion because it's pretty monstrous, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Do and you don't, you can cheat.
You can cheat away into it.
Yeah, you can cheat away into it. Or just do it for a lab. Just do it for a lab. And then 4 cores and 16 gigs. You're up and running.
Okay. So 4 core, 16 gigs, you can be up and running with Security Onion. But also look into things like pfSense. Be able to use that, build a firewall, be able to use it as, it's got a lot of additional functions that you can add on to it as well. Great platform to work with.
And it's free.
And it's free. That's the best part. All about the free stuff and whatever we can find a way to get for free within legal. But yeah, and yeah, picking up old Raspberry Pis. I've got a Pi 3 and a Pi 4. The Pi 3 was like $15. Cost nothing. I mean, of course, it's a 1 gig. It's got no oomph to it, but it does what I need it to do. It runs as a pile. So it's, and the 4 I've got sitting collecting dust right now. I haven't figured out what I'm gonna do with it, but I mean, right now my main server runs pfSense and acts as the gateway for my house. So everything gets funneled through that, and I can see everything, segment my network. I can do everything I want on that, and it's just, again, you start playing with these tools. Explain what you did with it on your resume, how you built this out, what you've done with it, the rules that you've developed for your SIM, things like that are all going to be value add when you're interviewing. Education, you're here to learn. Again, Simply Cyber, daily cyber threat briefing. Leverage if you have the access through school, Udemy, Pluralsight, a lot of schools have it for free. LinkedIn Learning, there's a lot of free content on there as well. Pluralsight does offer a lot of classes for free as well. Udemy, typically you got to pay something for it, but don't ever pay full price because wait about a week and it's going to go on sale for 10% of the cost, the retail cost. So you'll typically pay $9 to $15 for something for a 30-hour lesson. Podcasts, again, look around and see what's out there, but these two are some of my favorites. And then, of course, yeah, Darknet Diaries is always good stuff. CyberWire has a lot of information out there. CISO series has a bunch of stuff. There's a lot out there. Yes, right.
Another good resource is SANS.org.
Yeah, SANS is, they have the Internet Stormcast. It's a fantastic.
That's tailored more towards the web application.
Yeah, Yeah. Yeah, the Stan Storm Center, their Stormcast is fantastic. And then look out for the creators in the industry, the people that are out there every day providing knowledge at no cost. You find them on LinkedIn, you find them on YouTube, right? People like Network Chuck. You've got Dr. Gerald Ozier, the two cyber chicks. I think he's back to normal. Yeah, he was a little off the rails there for a little bit. And then networking. ISSA, if y'all are here, I've said it many times. Your local DEF CON groups. You all last night were at Cartersville, DC 770. We've got 678 at 6 o'clock next Wednesday. We've got 404 at, I think it's 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock on the third, 2 o'clock on the third Saturday of the month. 2600, I don't know what day it is, but they do a webcast Fridays. And then I want to set up something in the Alpharetta area, kind of north central Atlanta. So kind of tossing that idea around. So see what can come of that. USNUA, your local conferences, and then volunteer. You meet a lot of good people when you're putting in time outside of your education, and you'd be surprised at how much you actually learn. But there's a lot of organizations around here. Everybody's looking for help. Go spend a few hours, go format some hard drives and re-image some laptops, and help somebody else that needs some help. So yes.
Talking about like fun and like for DEFCON. I don't know much about that. What is that? Requirements like going or
So money. So getting the biggest gatekeep with DEF CON is getting the ticket and money. Because you got to get out to Vegas, and then the tickets aren't super cheap. But look locally. How much? $495. So you're $500 there.
I was like, damn.
You're $500 for hotel. So
Taylor, you can volunteer. There's like different colleges.
yeah. Volunteer at conferences. Good way to meet other people as well. I volunteered at B-Sides Atlanta this year. Fantastic. Met a lot of great people. And spent a few hours of the conference helping get everybody organized and herd all the cats where they needed to go. But it's a good way to network with other professionals in the industry, because the people that you're working alongside trying to check people in or try to make sure they get to the right rooms, those are the people that you're going to connect with. You're going to spend time with them and get to know them over those 2-3 hours that you're working. But a lot of the conferences, like Data Connectors is coming up, I think in May. They offer student discount codes. A lot of times it's free. Cybersecurity Summit, we just had it last month. I think it was beginning of February. Again, same thing. Student discount codes. Raymond was there.
Yeah.
I know we got Grace Kim in chat. She was in YouTube chat. She was there. Frank was there with me. We had other Frank was there with me. All the Franks there with me. But you can get in for little to no cost and absorb all that information and then, of course, network. But just look around. There's stuff going on all the time.
Data Connectors is next month, April 11th.
April 11th? Okay, so it's early this year. I think it was in May last year. The Data Connectors Conference.
So we're going to copy on the
But I think I have rambled on enough, harping on that. But to get a hold of me, that's me, Taylor McDonald, your membership director for ISSA Metro Atlanta. My email address with ISSA is right there, and my LinkedIn. So all the information is there. Whatever I can help with, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to share any resources I have, anything can guide you towards. Don't be afraid to ask questions. The only stupid question is the one you didn't ask. Yep. So, what questions do you have for me? And I open this up to YouTube and everybody in here. Yes.
What about and your stance on backdoors and breaches? The game.
So from Black Hills Information Security, backdoors and breaches. I have not played it yet. You have all the cards? Can you bring them to one of the DEF CON meetups? I want to play it. But yeah, I definitely, that's how I agree on it.
And
Linda. Yeah, no, we definitely need to. Yeah, but I did see they have an online version now too, where you can actually play it online. So, yes.
Do you have any recommendations for someone who specifically wants to get into physical security?
Ooh, ooh, the physical security. How to break into physical security, and I guess kind of literally break in. You know,
Right.
yeah. So are you looking to get into penetration testing, like doing physical penetration testing?
Yeah.
Really? So a lot of what I listen to from podcasts like Malicious Life and Darknet Diaries, and I don't have any personal experience with that, so I can't speak to it as a professional in that industry. But a lot of the guys, they have gotten good with like how to hack into an elevator, how to get it, like being able to pick locks, things like that. But I think your best avenue is to the network, especially when you're at like things like the Lockpick Village at B-Sides, being able to talk to the people that are running it, people that it draws a lot of people that like to do that kind of work, and you'll find people that you can talk to and be able to get that entry in. Penetration testing, I will say, is 10% actual fun stuff, and then it's a lot of paperwork, just like everything else in this industry. Getting your hands dirty is a small portion of it. So just be comfortable with that kind of stuff, being able to detail what you did and how you did it. But I mean, really start. I mean, you look at the key card readers on the doors here. Do some research on them. See how you can spoof those cards. Yes. Open zero and pop those locks. Yep, there it is. Open zero. And you can line my backpack. So no, but that's the biggest thing is, I mean, really trying to see what you can do, and then honestly, write about it. Start a blog on LinkedIn. Gives you a platform. You can start to write articles on what you did with XYZ card reader, how you were able to break into those defenses. That being said, before you publish it, you may want to let the company know what you did, and give them time to fix it. Be responsible about it. Don't just start publishing 0 days. You will make a lot of enemies in the industry doing that. Yeah. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we got a question from Anthony. What was your first role in tech/cyber, and how did you get it?
All right. So first role in tech was high school. I got into a lot of trouble. But I was also known kind of as the student that would help the teachers fix their computers. They're running into technical issues. I'd be goody two shoes and go fix their computer, get the lesson going, get their presentation working, fix their printer, whatever the case was. When we got in trouble for putting software on the library computers and playing games, and well, that was not the best day, but I was able to, because of my reputation, they, instead of suspending me or expelling me, it was, we're going to put you into the talented gifted program and you get to create your own class. Okay. Well, we're going to create your class for you. You're going to work with the network administrator. You're going to essentially intern for him. And that's going to be part of your duties from here on out in school. So I had 3 years shadowing the network administrator and deploying large, I mean, we had mobile labs that were 40 laptops with a UPS and wireless networking and everything else, but having to go and image all those machines, maintain all those laptops. That was my first real endeavor as a working in IT. I mean, I built my first computer at 14 years old. played a lot of games. I ran network cables through the house by cutting up the carpet and making my parents really mad. Because carpet doesn't lay back down nicely if you cut it and pull it up. Just so you know. But yeah, I got in plenty of trouble. I'm playing around, that kind of stuff. But from there, I mean, I didn't follow into tech. I kind of kept a pulse on everything. Came here to Kennesaw State for a degree in business administration and dropped out, went in because I was working in the car business. I was making stupid money. I stayed in the car business for 16 years. And then while I was doing that, I was helping McHelperton, trying to fix the stupid printers, the laser printers was the big thing. But I was also, when something was going wrong at the dealership, the IT department would call me, ask me to go, here's the credits, go log in here and fix it. They knew I could do it. So instead of them driving 40 minutes from Duluth, they just call me at the store and have me fix it while I'm doing my other job. So I've always kind of had a pulse on what's going on and being able to have that technical aptitude. And then finally got burnt out and made the jump into tech. Thankfully, with the support of my wife, I made it possible. So here I am. Yes.
How much is programming required? Like, you just learn Python and with it?
So how much programming is required is the question. Know how to code is probably the best thing. Know how programming languages work, know how objects, how you reference variables, things like that. Learning Python is probably the easiest way because it is a very natural way. The way it reads and the way you type the code reads very much like English. It's very easy to pick up. But understanding the fundamentals behind it is probably the biggest part of it. Depending on the role, you may need more coding or less coding in that particular role. If you're doing network automation, you're going to be doing a lot of coding. You're going to be building essentially infrastructure as code, where you can deploy entire network segments by deploying code. But then again, you start to build templates and you start to be able to work around that kind of stuff. You can do it. But I mean, the biggest thing, if you like coding, dive all in. No, ChatGPT is a great teacher. It doesn't ever write it right the first time, but having that understanding how programming works and the right syntax and everything else, being able to fix code. Actually, probably one of my favorite things is go and ask ChatGPT to do something for me to automate stuff in my job. And it never works, but I get to go and sit there and troubleshoot the code. And I learned something because I fixed what ChatGPT couldn't do right the first time. So, yes.
What's your ideal job?
Right here. Yeah, teaching. Ideally, yeah, I really like. This is the kind of stuff I like to do, which is why I do it on Monday nights. I don't make any money. We've got a sponsor, Simply Cyber, but it's not a financial sponsorship. It's more support on the back end, that kind of stuff. I do it because I love doing it. So being in a position at a company where I can have impact through education and through team building, stuff like that is kind of my ideal job. So thank you.
So in the chat, we got a question from Bruce. Being a beginner, what tools could help me determine what my niche is, such as security architecture, risk assessment, and threat intelligence?
All right. So Bruce's question in chat, what tools to use to figure out where you want to be or what your niche is in the industry? Honestly, it's going to be a lot of work because there are a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of overlap between the domains of cybersecurity, but really try to figure out how your brain works. If you're one of these people that likes puzzles and likes finding the needle in a pile of needles, you probably want to go into threat hunting. You probably want to get into something where God forbid, you're staring at logs all day. Yeah, OSINT, things like that. I mean, there's a lot of, really, it's kind of figure out kind of what makes you tick recreationally And if you really enjoy doing something like that, you can find a bridge into cybersecurity and be able to leverage those skills and that passion. Franklin first.
Library has free introductory course that goes over like the most common fields of cybersecurity to actually kind of help you figure out which area.
Yeah. So what Frank said was there's on Cyber, they have an intro to cybersecurity, kind of breaks down all the domains and help you kind of pick it up. So yeah, so the website is Cybrary, cybrary.it. What I was going to say, go back a couple slides here. This book, Cyber Unlocked, from, I keep saying his name, Dr. Gerald Auger, Simply Cyber. It's free. It's a ton of resources, a ton of information, things you can use, things like home labs that you can build out for $0. Things that you can do to help build your resume. There's guidance on writing your resume, how to fix it, how to build this, how to market yourself in this industry.
So there is a home lab that a gentleman by the name of Eric Capiano came out with last year. It's a 5-part blog, but it's basically so you want to be a SOC analyst. And you create a Ubuntu server, a Linux server, and spin up a Windows 11 machine. You basically take that Ubuntu server and attack that Windows 11 machine and see all the logs through the IDS that you install. One of the programs you use is called Lima Charlie. And I started this back probably last summer. I'm still playing around with it, and I'm also doing a new one with Elastic. Came out with a couple months ago.
Yeah, Eric Capuano's So You Want to Be a SOC Analyst is fantastic. It is in the book. If you go on to simplycyber.io/book, you'll pull this up, and all you do is throw in your email and emails you the book. And so it's free, tons of good resources in there. The Eric Capuano lab is in there. There's a lot of good hands-on work that you can get from that as well. Yeah, Kwon.
Oh, it's all right now.
Started networking earlier. Started talking to people earlier. I got into the industry through networking. I met the right people at the right time. I was ready to make that move out of the car industry. I took a pay cut getting out, but it was worth every bit of it. I really wish I had stuck with networking. I didn't do it from the time that I got in, probably about 6-8 months. Didn't do a single thing talking to anybody else. I wasn't looking at resources online. I was just happy to be out of the car industry and working 70, 80-hour weeks. And I really wish that I had put forth that effort and really started diving into this industry further. That's my biggest regret when I made it in. And honestly, really wish I'd taken a network administrator role for a little while, because I've pretty much taught myself everything I know on networking using tools like GNS3. You can essentially do the Cisco CCNA, and they provide all the tools, everything you need to know through that set of GNS3. A virtual machine you can spin up and essentially have a whole virtualized network that you can play with and break and burn it down and start again. So, yeah.
How do you start out find networking events? So for me, like I know obviously the more network events you go to, then you can find other networks like yourself or anyone here who hasn't been to a networking event before, other than a simple Google search of like tech, whatever. Would you recommend that, or is there something else that?
Yeah, so Google's how I found my first one. It was the Atlanta Cybersecurity Summit last year. And that's how I got introduced to the local DEF CON groups. and got introduced to the Georgia Nug. And, yeah, and it kind of snowballs.
Getting out of
Yeah. But I would also look at, you kind of figure out at least the domain that you want to get into. Start reaching out to people on LinkedIn. Worst thing, they don't respond to you. Best thing is they give you a ton of resources and they're another connection for you.
So once
Right.
you start going, like,
Yeah.
cybersecurity, they'll sell that list.
Yeah, you go to a conference and then the conferences sell their attendee list to other conferences, and then all of a sudden you get invites all the time. So I do get a lot of invites to different conferences, all around the country. Some of these groups. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, send the list of groups in the chat. It's fantastic. Yes.
What resources like programs, software, etc., do you use most in your day-to-day toolkit?
Day to day, Excel. I do a lot of work in Excel, and Excel is more than just a bunch of boxes on the screen. When you get deep into it, you're using things like Power Query, and you're able to do joins on tables and things like that. Doing VLOOKUPs, XLOOKUPs, and being able to reference large sets of data and be able to automate some of that, because you can use Visual Basic in there for some automation. Now you've got Python in the cloud, which is limited in its function to what it can fully do. But knowing Excel and knowing how it works, but also SQL would be the other part. I use SQL for some of my larger data sets and stuff like that, but digging through logs, a lot of it is Splunk that I work with. I'm pulling data out of Splunk, dumping it into spreadsheets, and then referencing be able to find what these machines are, what services they're supporting, and even down to the point I can find the user who actually is accessing that based just on the IP data and the machine data I'm getting out of Splunk. Yes.
If you want to get into pen testing and testing, VB, be surprised people don't think price VB script is. Got several friends with Patrick. With all says, oh, okay, VB script. And meanwhile, you're getting pumped.
Yeah, so what David was saying was knowing VB script is definitely valuable, especially in a red team perspective, because
PowerShell.
Yeah, and PowerShell scripting as well. A lot of organizations do not have those permissions locked down on their endpoints. And so things like your macros in a document, as soon as you open that document, that macro pops, your machine's home. You're done. Same thing with PowerShell. You can actually use PowerShell macros or macros that will launch PowerShell scripts to pull down your C2C, your command and control interface.
Then you get persistence and then you go in that machine.
Yeah. And get persistence through something that simple. And it's just a phishing email. Somebody opens a document. They might have been expecting a invoice from a vendor that you're impersonating. It's absolutely valuable skills that kind of back to the question earlier about programming. Scripting is knowing my big ones: Python, VB script, PowerShell. And then of course knowing Bash, but when you're playing with VB script and you're playing with PowerShell, Bash kind of comes naturally as well. A lot of the syntax is very similar. The function is very similar as well. So, but yeah, definitely know your platform.
You test your ISSP.
All right, so the question is, when I passed my CISSP, how did I know I was ready to take it? I really didn't. It was kind of one of those where I started, so Larry Holt, our director of education for the Metro Atlanta ISSA, had a CISSP class, and it started 2 weeks after I started back in school at WGU. So while I was going through all my courses at WGU, I also was taking his class every Tuesday night. A lot of learning, but a lot of it overlapped. And a lot of the knowledge that you gain through school and it continues building, it all builds up to that CISSP. CISSP, the biggest hangup is a lot of people are hands on keyboard and they want to take it, but it's a managerial level exam. So it's very much about the process. It's very much about how you would do this as an executive or manager of a cybersecurity program. So really it came down to, do I have sufficient knowledge? And then lots of practice questions. The week before my exam, I went through 2,200 practice questions. A lot of exams. I mean, the whole test was 125 questions. So do the math on it. I did 20 plus tests before I actually took it. Flashcards. So my method is I'll take the practice exam. Anything that I'm unsure of, I will flag that question so I can review it afterwards. And then, or if there's something in that question that I want to dig into a little deeper. So whether I get it right or get it wrong, I've got it flagged for one reason or another. But everything that I miss, I make flashcards out of it. I have a shoebox full of flashcards from everything from A plus all the way through CISP. And it's work to do it, but that writing it down, writing down the term, writing down the definition, and then whatever helps you remember it, especially with things like the OSI model, TCP/IP model, having your mnemonics and things like that, absolutely key. So what is it? Please do not throw away. Was it? Yeah, the sausage pizza one. Mine's please do not take salespeople's advice. Looking at you, Jeff.
If you go from top to bottom, it's all people seem to need data processing.
All people seem to need data processing.
Packets anyway.
Say that one more time, Dave.
People don't need those stupid packets anyway.
People don't need the stupid packets anyway. That's awesome. No, I mean, so whatever helps you learn or helps you remember, I mean, certain concepts like RAID 1, RAID 0. How I remember the difference? RAID 1 is mirroring because it is a side profile of a mirror, is number one. It's dumb. It works in my head. Whatever, I mean, it works. So that's kind of how I look at it. So, I mean, whatever works for you, but I try to, especially in my lessons on Monday nights, whatever I can do, whatever stupid thing I can throw out there, I'm going to throw it out there because it might help somebody. We all learn differently, but we all kind of have the same end goal, is to get into this industry and be successful at it. So hopefully I answered your question. Technology's up and coming. I hate it, but AI.
AI.
It's the buzzword of probably this decade. I mean, it's in everything. Honestly, embrace it, use it to better yourself in your job. Be able to use it in a smart fashion. Don't dump your company data into it, especially if you're using a public one like ChatGPT, Google Bard. Like when I use it for work, I will actually do it on my other computer, but I will throw stuff in there like I know how I want, like if I need a script for Excel, I'll throw in, I need column A to do this to column B to do this in column C, and here's the output that I want, and here's how I want the output formatted, and I'll make a formatted output of X's and decimals or however I want my final output to be. I'll give it to ChatGPT and let it do it. I'll bring it over to my work computer through GitHub. I'll upload it to GitHub, pull it off my own repository, because then the company doesn't own that data. That's my script now.
Yeah.
But that automation is now mine, and I can use it and test it, and then whatever changes I need to make, it may just be a line or two, and I can just type it on my work computer at that point, back and forth. But being able to use it to be better at your job and more efficient is, I think, going to be the biggest advantage of AI going forward. Yes, Melinda.
Remember? US office made a group and said that AI. So that means whoever owns that engine goes. Now, that changes in the future. That was something, if you have prompts, right? And that way, as the law of, you've already got them watching. For that.
Yep. So your prompts on ChatGPT or anything else are not copyrightable. So it is property of the company that owns that AI model. Yes, you had a question as well.
Are there any specific computer networking skills that you would prioritize reinforcing before while preparing for an interview?
Really look at the job description. So let me repeat the question. Essentially, networking skills that you would prioritize when you're going for a job. Really, the way that I would look at it is kind of read the job description, figure out kind of look at it, what industry they're in, what they're doing, what problems are they probably encountering. You can do some quick Google searches and kind of see how that company's been developing, what issues have they had, if they had a breach recently, things like that. And then you can kind of look and see from the job description, okay, here's, sometimes they'll list what tools they actually use, which is terrible operational security. Because as soon as we know that you run Tanium in your environment and you have Splunk sitting there, we have an idea of what's going on at your company and what tools you're using. We know that, or you've got certain web servers, and if they're asking for a specific web server software in that particular job description. But it's your advantage at that point because you already know, okay, this is the particular tool they're looking for. I guess kind of coming back to it, the biggest thing is like you may not know what tools they actually use or what particular skills they need, but be able to relate what they need, have other skills that you can lean on. So if you've done work in tools like GNS3, or you've done a lot of networking, or you have a fundamental understanding, how can you tie back into their needs? But yeah, I mean, my biggest thing going into cybersecurity, you don't have to have Network Plus, but understand the domains, all the fundamentals of networking. CCNA is an even better plus. Like we said earlier, you don't necessarily have to have the certification. It can help down the road, but it is worthwhile because it does teach a lot of the fundamentals that you're going to encounter.
So adding on to that, Imufu asked, what's a good entry-level certification in cybersecurity? He's looked at some of the free ones, but he said that they may not mean that much.
Yeah, so entry-level cybersecurity certifications. I've heard good things about the Google Cybersecurity Certificate. It doesn't carry a lot of weight right now. It's not going to get you in the door. It's going to show that you've completed the course, but you do get a voucher for Security Plus, or you get a discount code towards a voucher for Security Plus. So 25, 30% off. So it absolutely helps with the cost. Security Plus is absolutely probably the baseline cybersecurity certification. That's where I would start. ISC Squared has the certified in cybersecurity. I've seen that one start to pop up on a couple job postings. So that one's starting to get some traction. But you've got a big organization like ISC Squared backing that certification. They're well known for CISP, SSCP, CCSP. They've got a lot of certifications and a lot of clout in the industry. So unfortunately, you probably need to spend a little money or kind of go the hard path and network, talk to people, get an entry level help desk role, and maybe even see if you can get the company to pay for your certification. That would probably be the best way on a cheap front and to get some experience. Get an entry level role, get your employer to pay for your certifications. A lot of them will because they want to skill you up and make you more useful to them.
So for the cybersecurity students right here, what would you suggest to do like right now?
what would they do? What should they do right now in terms of
Just preparing for the job market or just like getting into cybersecurity?
network? I harp on it, but get out and talk to people. You're not going to get a job, or it's going to be very difficult to get a job without knowing somebody in the industry. But the knowledge that you're going to gain from making these connections, having somebody when you do get your job that you can call that, hey, have you encountered this before? These connections are going to be valuable down the road. Because I run into stuff. I call my brother in Colorado. He's a network administrator out there. I call him. Have you seen this before? What would you do here? What's the like? Have somebody to lean on. Make those connections now. Make them early, and then it'll help you down the road. That's your ticket to getting internships. Your ticket to the successes. Knowing other people. That's at least my 2 cents on it. Could Belinda or David or even Jeff weigh in on it?
Yeah, I would also say that, like to that point, networking fucked up. But that's yeah, what's put an application in, it's an algorithm. They just they look at like the chances that a person's like really gonna be looking at that is so what Taylor's saying is network, that's what's gonna get you in the door because man, like fill out an application on LinkedIn, it's like quick apply. You quick apply, you upload your resume, and you go, okay, good, I'm done. Wash my hands of that one, but in reality, it's going in some, thousands of other resumes, and you're not going to be pulled apart.
Yeah,
Skills are going to be missed.
yeah. So Jeff said, essentially, when you're applying for these jobs, you're one of hundreds. Your resume, not thousands, but your resume is going to get you through the applicant tracking system. You knowing somebody in that company is going to get you in the door. I actually got a little aggressive last year. There was a job at Warner Brothers here in Atlanta, and I wanted this job. It was in mergers and acquisitions, which is where I'm working right now. Like, you know what? I'm going to apply for it. And I saw they listed the title of the hiring. They didn't list his name, but they listed the title. So I went on LinkedIn. I LinkedIn stalked the guy. I signed up for LinkedIn Premium and I messaged him. I didn't get it because I didn't have my degree. A week later, I got a call back. We'd like you to interview. We removed the requirement for a degree. But finding somebody at that company that I could talk to about that job, find a way to get in the door. Yes.
I would say if I could piggyback off that, average HR person who's sorting through resume, 45 seconds. 45 seconds. That's enough to catch firms. They're looking for certain buzzwords, certain checkboxes, for you to pass that gate. So when Taylor says network. Trying to find a job is literally a full-time job. It took me better part of 3 years. Secondly, too, if you want to go out and if you want to link in stop people, want to stop job, that's what we do. You get an alert for weird IP. You don't know where it comes from, right? You have to track that down and see where it points. That's a skill. So you take that same kind of mentality and fight the company. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, so David kind of echoed what I had said about. I mean, you can use OSINT. LinkedIn stalk people at that company. Maybe you've got a second level connection to somebody at that company. Reach out to them and say, hey, I'm interested in this role. What's the worst that happens? They don't respond to you. The best thing is they go, hey, thanks for reaching out. Let me put you in contact with the right people. But yeah, your application is they're gonna breeze right past your application if it doesn't have the right keywords on it. Jeff can probably say a lot of the recruiters, they have automated tools that are just scanning your resume, try to pick out keywords. So when I say, when you're writing your resume, be detailed, don't worry about having a 2-page resume. Don't. If you're firing off your resume everywhere, you want to have as many keywords in that resume and not just white text at the bottom of the resume. You're going to get trashed. They're not going to look at you for that. But have quality things that you can describe, quality experience in projects that you've done that you can lean on. But also, at least for my personal case, I've got a short blurb at the top of my resume that takes about 45 seconds to read. Here's who I am and why I'm good at what I do. And that is, at least when a recruiter sees it, they know who I am, what I've done, and why I would be a good fit for this position. And I can change that blurb and tailor it to the job that I'm applying for. It takes me 10 seconds to do it. So that's my 2 cents on resumes and applying. Yes.
What's their term calling?
So advice for cold calling people on LinkedIn.
I should have got that first message getting that
Hey, this is my name. Here's what I'm doing. I saw this job posting. Was wondering if you could give me a referral in. Honestly, a lot of companies bonus their people on referrals. So if they look at your LinkedIn and they go, okay, yeah, you might be a good fit for this. I'm going to refer you in because I'm probably going to get $500, $1,500 for bringing somebody into the company. You make it that 6 months, they're getting paid. So they have an incentive. So don't be afraid to reach out and just, make a new friend. I mean, some people in this industry are here because computers don't talk back, or at least they didn't used to. But you don't have to have that human interaction. But unfortunately, or fortunately, for people like me that like to talk to people, we have that interaction now. But don't be afraid to reach out to people. You've got a few bad eggs out there, but for the most part, we're here to help. And when you get into groups like Simply Cyber and start participating and you start getting networked, I went from having a feed that was completely automotive. 2 weeks later was 100% cybersecurity. And I went from having like 75 connections to over 100 in 2 weeks. And some of those connections are, I can call them friends at this point. People that I only know them through Discord and through teaching on Mondays, but just from that regular interaction. But I see when there's a job posted, I get notified on LinkedIn. This connection of yours, they have a connection that is hiring for this job. Would you like to apply? Perfect. I'm gonna go reach out to this person that I've only known through chat. Can you introduce me to this person? I'm interested in this job. Leverage those connections, those second level connections. You can have somebody help you get that introduction and get into that role. That's at least been successful on my side of things. So yes. I would not pay for LinkedIn Premium every month. When I'm job searching, I'll buy it like a month at a time. Yeah. So I can go through somebody's entire list of mutual connections or like second level connections. There's an API call you can do to download the entire list of somebody's connections, the companies they work for, their titles, and past jobs they have, and dump it all into an Excel sheet. Again, I love Excel. So I will pull down a CSV of all that information, dump it into Excel, and then I can parse through it of what I'm looking for. You can even have it triggered on what jobs they have available at that company and by certain keywords. There are ways you can leverage it, but if you're not using premium, it stops you after about the 10th one that you do, or about the 10th person that you click through. It shuts you down hard. They don't want you using it to spam people and things like that. So they put it behind a paywall, but you get a month free. It's worth checking out, especially if you're in that point where you're wanting to do an internship or something like that, and you're trying to find them and kind of do a little bit more reconnaissance on these people. It's definitely worth at least grabbing the free month, and doing your talking with a little bit more aid from LinkedIn.
I second this.
Jeff, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to add on to that. When you connect people, so that way you're not sending messages message. So every connection I make, that's what I do. They, I don't know, write a note, they see it right away. Like a few of them, they're message back.
Yeah, I think without premium, you get like 5 a month that you can send. At least when you connect with them, you can add a note.
There you go.
Just a,
What's the name of the API?
Free message.
yep.
I can't remember. I'd have to look it up, but I can definitely find it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I dumped it into PowerShell and ran an API call, dumped it to an Excel file, and run with it.
Anthony from chat asked, I recently got an entry-level networking role working with IPTVS. Do you have any advice for someone who recently got their first job in IT looking to eventually move over to cyber?
Y'all are going to get sick of hearing me say this. Networking. So Brendan, what did I tell you to do in your first 90 days of your role?
Network, talk with everybody.
Network. Go ask questions. Go find people. Put 15 minutes on their calendar. You have the new guy card. Use that. Hey, I'm new here. I want to know what you do. Can we talk for a minute? Can I get 15 minutes of your time? Just chat with you, find out what you do. And then all of a sudden you've got FaceTime with people. You've got a connection. And maybe, what problems are you running into? What struggles do you have? Is there anything I can help you with? All of a sudden you start becoming a resource for these people and you get pulled into their projects. You get pulled into other things than just what is in your job description. Yeah, it's more work and you're probably not getting paid for it because you're doing it on top of your regular day-to-day duties, but you're becoming more valuable to that company. And then when that role opens up, you're getting pulled into that job first. Even if they have to open it publicly and get all the applicants and everything else, you're probably going to be sitting pretty close to the top of that list because you're a known quantity to them. But networking within your own company is absolutely valuable. Yes.
I just had a friend of mine I met in college that just been with like AWS for about 12 years and a senior security engineer position popped up. And they moved it from Seattle to Sheridan, Virginia, near him, for him.
Wow.
And it was supposed to be a 4-part interview. By the time the hiring manager got to one second interview, he goes, "You're hired."
Yeah, Frank's echoing exactly what I just said. When you make those connections within your company and you show your value and you start to build that rapport with hiring managers and people who can see the other skills that you bring to the table, it is that much more valuable. So, and that's what lands you future jobs. And I can say I did it in the car business. I started in the car wash, made it to service manager. And by asking questions and doing stuff that was not in my job description, picking up trash in the parking lot, just doing stuff that I saw needed to be done, and just asking questions, talking to people in those other departments. How I got from car wash to technician to into sales, and then from sales into parts, and then parts into service. So moved all around, learned everything about that business on my journey, made me a better manager, maybe a better employee, knowing as much as I could. And I think that curiosity is absolutely valuable. When you're working in a company, especially a big company, kind of knowing your impact in other people's departments or how you could help them be better makes you desirable when you want to make that move into something.
Are there any resources that you use particularly when it comes to staying ahead of the curve with new cyber attacks?
We're never ahead of the curve on cyber attacks. No.
So it's more
the job of defense is I can't remember who said it, but it is, and giving a talk coming up soon, but you cannot prevent, you cannot defend or prevent, you can respond. Butchering the quote right now. But essentially, you can't predict any of this stuff. You're not going to be able to close all the holes. Cybersecurity is mitigation. You're trying to reduce the blast radius when something does happen. And the best thing is having as much hygiene in your environment, being as clean as possible, and having visibility into everything, and then knowing what's normal and what's not. So when something happens, you can pick it up as quick as possible.
You mentioned, go back to the NIST sets up, for things, for items that are right. And so talking about, I was asked the person.
Simply Cyber. Yep, daily cyber threat briefing, right here.
So sign up for that and, buy your class or whatever in the bar.
It's free. Come on out, join chat. It's a good time. It's also recorded, so you can watch it at any point. Doesn't have to be right away. And I'm pretty sure I just interrupted Belinda again.
Not to interrupt people. I told them I was gonna take a
Belinda's here to give me a hard time, so.
But yeah, so I think that is in the habit of that, then when you do interview, you'll instantly have, there won't be a lull in the, well, what are you interested in? What do you want to do? Well, I was listening this morning at the podcast and, CVE, you don't have to memorize enough, but with, the common name, right? They'll say, this target or to whoever, I was on the podcast. That's the hire right there. It's like engaged, whoever engaged, they're learning, they're that's all we want. Show up.
I want to get into talk on threat intel, like you enjoy things like worms, viruses, that kind of stuff. There's literally APT groups pop up every single. Go find one, follow them. Follow a malware family. Everything from QuickBot to find one, follow it, learn it, that knowledge to leverage to press a hiring manager. Odds are likely that manager's following that.
So if you tune into Simply Cyber, the daily cyber threat briefing, and a lot of people in our YouTube chat already do. We all kind of found each other through Simply Cyber. But that is something, like Belinda said, that current news, he breaks it down in a way that makes it easy to understand and easy to make it actionable, that you can actually bring it into a job interview and say, you're interviewing for Truist Bank, for example. Well, in the news today, there was an event, and you can bring that to the table and speak to it. Makes it very easy to stay current. It's entertaining, but it's also very valuable in the way that Jerry breaks everything down and makes it digestible, but then you can also leverage it to your advantage. And he will tell you the same thing when you are interviewing and somebody asks you, how do you stay current in the industry? You drop Simply Cyber Daily Cyber Threat Briefing. Boom. Mic drop. And you drop that knowledge from that day's episode or that week's episode, somewhere in that, some recent, you're hired. That's it. Done. They don't want to talk to anybody else because you're curious, you're staying up to date. Absolutely worth it.
Like this morning, we were talking about Black Hat. They're basically, looks like they're going to go silent for a couple months, to get things back together.
Yeah.
$22 million vacation. But they started as Dark Matter, which was the group that took down the Colonial Pipeline 2 years ago. And every 6 months, they're going dead, but they're coming back as a different name. But you can look at the TTPs, the tactics, techniques, and procedures. And go, wait a minute, this sounds like this group. Oh wait, it was that. They're just under a different name.
Yeah, so being able to attribute attacks being able to kind of follow the progression of the news and how things kind of evolve. Honestly, most of the time it's another data that ends in Y and somebody's getting a ransomware, somebody didn't secure their S3 buckets, somebody didn't, somebody has a terrible password policy. But being able to refer to that, being able to reference that in the job interviews, value beyond what anybody could expect. So, do we have any more questions?
You see the 5 years.
Demand in this industry in the next 5 years. Yeah, it's going to be everywhere. I mean,
Audit,
GRC.
and GRC, and forensics.
yeah, so all over. So SOC, GRC, forensics, all over the place. So, but I kind of echo what I said earlier is if you're looking to get into a SOC, having some understanding of how audits work and how your work ties into GRC or how all these other departments work together, how these other teams influence each other will make you much more valuable. And it makes your job easier too, because you can connect with these people, you kind of understand what they do. The people that are in other silos within your same organization, you can break down those silos and work together on problems, and you can make yourself much more knowledgeable and honestly more efficient at your job when you know how to work around some of the steps or work through the steps faster because you have somebody else you can lean on. Linda?
So, thank governance client, but I believe what that will, that not just the European Union that has the bars to protect that out. We're also going to be any others. We have 30 right now who have something on the state ballot. That's the last. There's, I know, there's. I mean, we need a national. Because we can't. We can talk about a state like California. They're doing everything they can to get that, and they're fining people for ridiculous stuff. Right? They thought they for a second they could find a major organization like Google or Bank of America or something like that. I believe what and the California law are as far as people that good. Fair bit.
Yeah, I mean, everything comes back to data. Protecting your data, protecting whether it's through PCI DSS, so for protecting credit payment card information, whether it's HIPAA, health information. There's a lot of different regulations and everything else. Having knowledge of that in whatever role you're in will make you better at your job because you know how the work that you're doing ties into protecting the company and complying with those regulations, GDPR, things like that. It's all one circle. But yeah, like Melinda was saying, we don't need to have 50 different privacy laws in the US. We've got to find a happy medium for everybody. But California wants to be real hard on it. And then you've got Virginia on their own, and you've got, I mean, I think, yeah, Maine's got their own. They've got all over the place, and they are from just very light. I think even Georgia has one that's on the books, but it doesn't really do anything. Then you've got California that it's, I mean, you fail, we're putting you in jail, or we're.
That's on the book. That's a
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
40. All right. Do we have any more questions on YouTube?
No.
Anybody else? Bueller? What's up?
Just what you were thinking.
Yeah, Bruce Schneier. That's it. You can't defend, you can't prevent. The only thing you can do is detect and respond. Some people will argue with that, but I honestly feel it's the truth. You you cannot prevent attacks. You can respond to them in a timely manner and you can stop them quickly. But you're not going to know when there's a 0-day out there. But if you have good hygiene in your organization, you know what normal looks like, you can identify the abnormal and catch it before it becomes a problem.
What do you think about
Zero trust, that's going to be the core. Zero trust is going to be the core of everything. Yep.
Well, and then that goes back
Or
to
trust but verify.
Yeah, trust but verify.
Trust but
Yep. And
Was it,
everyone was talking about networking. Networking also involves all your ports, all your firewall. That's kind of dumped in net. So when you're allowing open that firewall, that's what they call, that's what they mean by hardening work. That's really all that it is. It's just shutting down all of the ports. They're only allowing the ports that are needed.
yeah, so hardening, I mean, essentially removing unnecessary services, closing unnecessary ports, essentially reducing your attack surface, any vector that somebody can leverage to get into your network, only using the ones that are absolutely necessary.
I was gonna say, the principle as this privilege, like using
Exactly, yeah, least
it,
privilege.
you turn it off. Right.
Absolutely. Awesome. I appreciate y'all coming out. This has been awesome. Thank you, YouTube, for hanging in there for an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I really appreciate everybody coming out. Look forward to seeing y'all on Monday on the Slay Security Plus channel for Domain 3. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.
Can say this on the channel.
please,